Bam. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Mass Empowerment Project. I am Jonas and This is Guy Marcotte, our producer. Um, Welcome back. Uh, we are uh, we are at a very unique crossroads in the very young infancy of the Mass Empowerment Project podcast. We, in less than 5 weeks, have gotten ourselves banned from YouTube, or not banned, but we have gotten last week's podcast has been deleted from YouTube. And our number one topic of conversation today will be our deletion and why we were deleted. Yesterday, we received an email explaining why we were deleted, and I'm going to read a little bit of it to you. Okay, it says, the safety of our creators, viewers, and partners is our highest priority at YouTube.
Of course.
Yes, we look to each of you to help us protect this unique and vibrant community. It's important to understand our community guidelines and the role they play in our shared responsibility to keep YouTube safe from all of us crazies out there. Take the time to carefully read the policy below. YouTube doesn't allow content about COVID-19 that poses a serious risk or egregious harm. YouTube doesn't allow content that spreads medical misinformation that contradicts local health authorities or the World Health Organization. Medical information about COVID-19, this is limited to content that contradicts the WHO or local health authority guidelines on treatment, prevention, diagnosis, transmission, and what we got deleted for was our contradiction to social distancing and self-isolation guidelines, or the existence of COVID-19 itself. YouTube policies on COVID-19 are subject to change in response to changes to global WHO or local health authorities' guidelines on the virus. They published this in May of last year. A lot
Because
of
they
things,
because
a
they
lot,
care about us.
well, a lot of things
That's
have
obvious.
changed, but a lot of things have changed since May of last year, correct?
Well, I mean, the I guess the information, and we have more data now that you know shows the results of what has been done.
Exactly. And it has been shown that what has been done was a massive overreach of power and a massive infringement on civil liberties and a complete disempowerment of the population at large, which runs in complete contradiction to what the mass empowerment stands for. Everything that we do here at the Mass Empowerment Project, everything that I do in my personal life is set up to empower myself and to empower those around me. And everything, not just about COVID, everything from COVID to the value of our currency is set up to disempower the individual and make them subjects to the whims of an authority that does not care about them. It does not care about me. It does not care about you. It does not care about any of us. And as I read this bullshit that came out of YouTube, I was wondering to myself, if YouTube is willing to change their criteria for deleting certain content based on what the WHO decides to change their mind to, what makes any of it valid?
Yeah, um, I think some people are starting to at least see that that there's a massive misinformation campaign going on, and that Google and YouTube are in on it, as well as the mass media. So it's nothing new.
No,
I
it's
mean,
totally not new. I had a dear friend comment about the whole uh, censoring of anybody that questions the vaccine narrative, which is basically what we did last week. We didn't really
we're not
slam.
offering medical advice.
No,
That's we're not doing that, and we
no,
should have that disclaimer at the very beginning. We are not offering medical advice.
not at all.
You should do what you want. We're just talking about the way we feel about what's going on, what we see.
Right. And if you happen to see that also, then maybe voices like ours should not be silenced. Um, I don't know if what I'm doing or trying to do is going to have any positive effects whatsoever. But I took some time today before we did this episode to go down to the beach and clear my head and ask myself, why is it exactly that I'm doing what I'm doing? And I have a 5-year-old son who one day I'm going to leave this planet and leave it to him. And for me to not do anything to stand up for his individual God given, even though God has some sort of negative connotation within the atheist community at this point, his universal rights to be able to be a free person, experience what he wants to experience, come to his own conclusions, act the way he wants to act, as long as he is not harming anybody else. I'm trying to protect those rights.
How about the freedom of speech? I think that's a pretty
Well,
important one too.
well, yeah, but the thing is, at this particular point, we have an entire group of people, young people, who are convinced that freedom of speech is not that important because they feel that certain speech is offensive to them because it doesn't align with their beliefs. And just because somebody's speech does not align with your beliefs, that does not make it evil. It does not make it wrong. It is literally only something that you need to be able to digest, listen to, and integrate into your personal perspective. That's all it is. And I made a post that was um, motivated by this whole thing today. And it was this: if we're proceeding forward in a free society, let's just imagine that we are living in a free society, even though we currently are not. And somebody has an idea, whatever that idea may be, a way to desalinate the oceans. Who cares what it is? And that idea cannot stand up against public scrutiny and public debate, then that idea is garbage. Period. You should be able to, if you have a fantastic idea that's going to change the world for the better, it should be able to withstand public scrutiny and public debate. And the thing about authoritarians is authoritarians that come up with ideas that they feel they should superimpose on everybody else can never withstand public scrutiny and public debate. So, the need to censor and delete opinions and ideas that contradict their opinions and ideas, which is what the Mass Empowerment Project just encountered last week after an extremely informative and extremely forward-thinking episode. Do you not agree?
Well, I mean, that's a matter of opinion, but regardless of whether or not it was informative or not, it's just a bunch of guys talking about what they think.
Right.
So it's, YouTube really isn't for you anymore. There are powers that be, as always, that control what is considered to be acceptable discussion. So I think that's the main thing. Whether or not, even if we're wrong, it doesn't matter. We're just guys that free human beings that are questioning those that don't want us to be free.
Well, I found it funny, like they I don't know if anybody can see this. Hold on, let me see if I can get it in the frame. They sent me a little questionnaire in there.
Oh, are you satisfied with the response?
Yes,
okay,
yeah. It says this.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
How satisfied are you with YouTube help today? Are you extremely satisfied? Very satisfied? Moderately satisfied? Slightly satisfied? Or not satisfied at all? And I was mad. Well, not mad, but none of those fit into my actual feelings after this. What I feel mostly is saddened. I'm sad that YouTube, which had the potential to be a place where people could share all of their opinions, people could absorb every single different perspective that existed and come to their own conclusions, has decided to align themselves through their own words with the World Health Organization and say that if you don't align your thoughts with the World Health Organization, which, by the way, can change at any time.
Right.
They even said that. If the World Health Organization changes their mind at any time, then we will change our mind at any time. So even if what I said last week in my episode was 100% truth and perfect and in line, and the World Health Organization recognizes it 6 months from now, my episode from last week, our episode from last week, is still deleted. Because the WHO, where did they gain their authority? Tell me. I mean, I remember the Seattle riots back in the 90s when the World Health Organization was being created. And people were out in the streets saying, this is creating medical tyranny. And people were freaking out in Seattle. But, 98% of the population wasn't paying fucking attention because they were too busy watching football. They were too busy worried about the next episode of Friends. They were too busy worried about Brad Pitt's abs because they've been completely disillusioned as to what is important as a human being.
Well, Brad Pitt did have some pretty awesome abs in the 90s.
I must agree. I tried very hard to get those, but I would have been fat.
Wait, we're going to be censored for false information.
Yes.
It has been fact checked. Brad
It's been
Pitt did
fact checked.
that. Yeah.
Listen, Brad Pitt's abs are not fantastic. They're above average.
Okay, so this is what we're doing about it. We recently opened up an Odyssey account, so we're going to be uploading. We're going to be trying our best so that at least the videos don't come down. We do need a bunch of YouTube subscribers. I don't know how long it's going to take, but we need 300 YouTube subscribers in order to get our content automatically synced with Odyssey. Right now, I have to basically download and then upload to Odyssey. So, I mean, I guess that's not a big deal. At some point, YouTube may just take down the channel. In which case, we'll have our conversations and then just upload to Odyssey. Because as of now, I don't see a way to do a live stream on Odyssey. I know some people said that they were able to do it, and I just don't see the option available. Maybe we'll have to find some other way. I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter whether or not someone watches us live or they watch us after the fact. I mean, it doesn't really matter.
But it would be nice at some point if people could link in, call with a question or with a perspective, and then log out.
Well, that hasn't happened so far. But it would be nice. It would be nice if others could join us, people that agree with us, or disagree. You can tell us why you disagree with what we're saying, and that's fine too. So anyway, there we have our new Odyssey channel, and it's at Odyssey. Let me get the Odyssey, that is odyssee.com/@the-mass-empowerment-project.
Because in the end, that's what we're trying to do. Instead of always appealing to some outside of ourselves authority to light a fire inside of people's souls, to realize that there is no authority in this world that can ever be imposed upon you that is greater than you. Period. End of story. No, nothing more to talk about.
Yeah, I mean,
when the Mass Empowerment Project developed, somebody asked me this earlier today. It started off in 2016 when I looked at Hillary Clinton running against Donald Trump for president of the United States. And I was like, both of these candidates are absolutely ridiculous in every way, shape, and form that you could imagine two candidates being ridiculous. And I decided that, okay, with no money and no resources, I'm going to run as an alternative candidate independently, basically on the strength of the message. But in reality, Jonas Minardi had no interest at all in becoming president because I have no right or authority to tell anybody else how to live. So, the Jonas Minardi for President campaign shifted into a whole other perspective, which is you, me, us, being sentient beings that were born here against our will. Our mothers and fathers all fornicated and produced us and shat us into this existence. Okay? And we were left with the world that they gave us. And we were indoctrinated to listen to the authorities that told us how we were supposed to behave, act, and think. And all of those authorities were full of shit. And as you get older and run through this existence and insert yourself into the rat race and see where it all leads into this perpetual debt cycle that we all live in, eventually, if you will truly care about the future, if you truly care about your children and your grandchildren, you have to put the brakes on this Leviathan that never stops moving forward and say, whoa,
I'm going
fuck
to
you.
pick up my stuff.
And right now, we're dealing with the Google and YouTube Leviathan. And we're trying to find another way to share this message with people. Allow the helicopter to pass.
They're on to you. Get out of there.
Kind of loud. Share this message with people that have not been beaten into submission yet. People that still hold on to that innate God given strength that tells them that they are the master of their universe. I am the master of my universe. You are the master of your universe. To listen to pea brains. By the way, Joe Biden is a pea brain. By the way, Donald Trump is a pea brain. By the way, Hillary Clinton is a pea brain. By the way, George W. Bush was a pea brain. By the way, George H.W. Bush was a pea brain. By the way, Ronald Reagan was a pea brain. These people are small minded fucks that are trying so hard to pretend that they mean something. The only person that means anything in the way that this world exists is you. Period. Stop looking towards false idols. All of you. Start standing in your own fucking power. Please. Fuck the WHO. Fuck
Oh,
YouTube.
fuck YouTube.
Yes, go ahead, delete me.
Well, I think the message that you're trying to say, and I certainly agree, is you own yourself,
Yes,
and I own myself.
yes.
So there is no authority that can. I mean, there is power, but it's brute force and violence that enforces the type, the types of measures that um, restrict people's civil liberties. But it's not that people don't already have the right. They already have the right. You always have the right to your own body, for one, to protect yourself and your neighbors, your loved ones. You have the right. You've always had the right. You don't need a government. A government is never going to protect your rights. It goes against what they do. They are the biggest violator of human rights that there is.
Oh, and it's all governments. And this is the thing. Like this week, we had the escalation of war acts in Israel and Palestine, and it's become a hot button issue this week. And we have people taking sides. Oh, I'm pro-Palestinian. I'm pro-Israeli. Yes, they have a right to live. Yes, they have a right to live. Of course, everybody has a right to live. But once you have to start dropping bombs on the other side, you've already lost the argument. It's kind of like this whole thing with them deleting us. If you have to delete us because you can't handle or contradict the words that we are espousing out of our mouths, then you've already lost the debate. If I'm being censored, if I'm being censored, I feel like you've instantly validated everything that I said because you can't contradict it. I challenge. Listen, I'm a bartender. I happen to be a well-informed bartender, but I'm a bartender nonetheless. That's how I pay my bills. I will sit in a room with Anthony Fauci tomorrow and destroy him and dismantle him in any debate, anytime, anywhere. Because he can never answer any of my questions directly, and I can answer all of his questions directly. That's a power that I possess inside of me. So why would I ever listen to anything that that piece of shit has to say?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's definitely he's highly educated, and he is well trained in well,
Bullshit. He's
yeah,
well trained
okay. I'm
bullshit
trying,
people.
trying to find the right words, but
Yeah,
it,
the word is
he
bullshit. There is no right word. He's profoundly educated in how to bullshit the public and pretend to be authority.
right.
You know that. I know that. I believe that 70% of the population knows that. But that ain't never getting on your television screens, kids and children and boys and girls of all ages. They're going to continue to spoon feed you child-esque narratives so that you feel no need to dig deeper.
Right. Well, I mean, the information flows is controlled. I
Absolutely.
mean, if you don't realize that by now, then you're just not paying attention.
You realize that, I realize that, but there's many people that don't even question it.
Yeah, that's a big problem. That's the problem, and I think you see this, and I see this, and sure, guys like Lark and Rose have been screaming this, um, that the narrative is controlled. So
Completely.
it's completely controlled. So if the news is fake, which it clearly is, then the history books are very questionable as well. And what is being taught is very suspect as well. And I think the biggest part of the indoctrination is just for people to accept what is being told to them from the authority. And if you question any of it, you're a troublemaker.
A rabble rouser. Get your pitchforks out. We need to behead the king.
Can you do that with a pitchfork? I mean,
No, you poke them in the ass with a pitchfork until they go to the guillotine.
okay.
Yeah. Rah, 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 rah.
I thought of something interesting the other day about your run. If you could do your run for president, if you sort of did it like a mock run for president, and you just came up with these obviously ridiculous platforms, like keeping people safe from violence, by requiring everyone to leave their house with handcuffs and shackles to keep people from hurting one another. Yeah. And it's because you care. Obviously, you care. You care about other people. So therefore, everybody has to wear handcuffs and shackles when they leave the house.
I like that idea. I'm rooting for that idea.
Because I mean, if you came out and said it like that, people would get it right
Well,
away.
this is the thing, is maybe it's because I've been in this battle for so long, but like I remember 10 years ago when people first started talking about Agenda 21, and we talked about the fact that one of their eventual goals was to vaccinate everybody and to chip everybody. And everybody was like, no, that's never going to happen. Never happen, never happen, never happen. Well, here we are in 2021. And not only is this vaccination being pushed at a level that I've never seen before, but
It's unprecedented.
yeah,
I
they've
mean,
actually trained the public to view anybody that believes that the vaccination is not worth getting as evil
right,
or the problem.
right.
Those
Well,
people
I
that
mean,
refuse are the problem.
I know, but
Those are the same people that 10 years ago, when I was talking about the platform of Agenda 21, said that will never happen. Well, here we are 10 years later, and it's not only happening, but they are pushing it on their friends and family members.
right, they've been trained. These are the. I mean, you understand that most people believe the words of liars and mass murderers. I mean, it is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. Is like how much people just forget about how often that they've been lied to, and they just still keep believing these talking heads on the TV and the guys with the lab coats, and um, I don't get it. I mean, it's like, why would you subject yourself to human experimentation from the people that want that want you dead? I mean,
Well, the thing is, like, I'm not one of those people that believes that Bill Gates is the most evil human being in the world.
it's relative.
But yeah, but I have absorbed the information that pretty much outlines how he could be the most evil person in the world.
Hey,
I
there's a
mean, he
race
has
going
in
on.
his own he has in his own words stated that he feels that overpopulation is the biggest problem facing the world, and
Right.
that the population itself needs to be curbed in order to maintain our resources. Now, there is a whole other perspective that outlines the fact that we as humans could never possibly use all of the resources that we have. We could expand to 20 billion people and we would still find ways to make sure that everybody had a home, everybody had energy, everybody had food, everybody had clean water. Those technologies already exist. But if you are a power happy, small brained, please let me tell you one more time, Bill Gates has a small brain, person who believes that I need to have control of the whole situation. Of course, the resources are never going to be enough because you need to have control of those resources. Remove that motherfucker from the equation, and there are unlimited resources for the rest of us to be able to provide for ourselves, our families, our friends, our neighborhoods, our communities, our states, our countries, and our world as a whole. That is the thing that they don't want any of us talking about. The fact that we could take care of ourselves and everybody around us if we just eliminated those people that believe and sell the fact to you that they are the authorities. They are garbage. Start looking them at garbage. Please, people, anybody watching this show, look directly into my eyes. Please start seeing the people that claim to be authorities and experts as parasites and leeches that are keeping us away from our human potential, because that's what they are. And if we cut them off, stop funding them, stop listening to them, and start standing in our own personal power, we have the ability as human beings to create our version, each of us individually, of Valhalla, our own personal heavens right here on this planet. But as long as we bow our heads and disempower ourselves to some outward authority that we somehow inside our brains twist ourselves into believing is smarter, better, wiser than us, then we will never reach that heaven. We will never reach that Valhalla, and we will be condemning our children and grandchildren to subjugation by those fuckers. Period. And I apologize for my language, but I did just get deplatformed from YouTube last week for speaking the truth. So excuse me, please wake up. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. We need 300 subscribers in order to keep this podcast going. Yes, I'm pissed.
All right. Should we just end it there then? I think
No.
that's probably. I mean, today's episode was what I mean. Should we just can we just end it here?
I don't know.
If you wanted to say maybe a couple words, anything else?
Believe in you. Please, everybody, believe in you first and foremost in all things. And I'll end it on this. When I talk to people face to face about what's going on in the world today, most people, when I break it down to its simplest form, end up agreeing with me. And most people end up coming to this line. Yes, I agree with you. That is the way we should go. But every single one of them is worried about the other guy. And it's a different other guy for everybody. We can break it down to all the different lines of division. You know, I could talk to a Republican and they can agree with me and say, yeah, but the Democrats. Or I could talk to a Democrat and they can agree with me and say, yeah, but the Republicans. I could talk to a white person and say, yeah, but the black people. I talk to a black person and say, yeah, but the white people. I talk to a Christian, yeah, but the Muslims. Stop with the but the. Take responsibility for where you stand, and start creating positive change for you. Start creating positive change for your family. Start creating positive change for your community, and do all of it without any top-down pyramid structure, authoritarian bullshit in your way.
Yes.
That's what empowerment's all about. That's what the Mass Empowerment Project is all about. Yes, we want the masses to be able to work together instead of feeling like we are at odds with one another. And it all starts with us individually embracing our own individual empowerment. Nobody can tell you how to live your life in the best way possible other than you.
Disobedience is a virtue.
Disobedience is the highest virtue. I love you all. That's the Mass Empowerment signing out for today. Please, everybody, go to YouTube. Go to the Mass Empowerment Project. Please subscribe. We need 300 subscribers as soon as possible.